Hey y'all, it's Nomadic Mom here. I'm literally sitting in my bathroom right now making this video because it is the one place in my entire apartment that I can come and be alone and not one of my kids will knock on the bathroom door to bother me. So I won't either confirm nor deny that sometimes I just sit in here for like 5 or 10 minutes just because. Call that single mom life. Okay, so I had to regroup that thought because I could literally hear myself echoing and it was driving me nuts. So I just decided to come back out into my room, which also means it's a free-for-all. So I'm going to try to get through this video without any interruptions, but I cannot guarantee that will happen because my youngest is sitting right there watching Ratatouille. So two of the biggest questions I get asked are why? Why did I choose to do this lifestyle? Or why do I choose to live nomadically? And two, how do I educate my children? So I'm going to hit on the first one first, which I kind of touched bases with in our first video. But I 150% chose to do this lifestyle for my children. I wanted to give them something more than the traditional, I guess, quote-unquote, standard life. I wanted them to be able to see the world around them and to realize that the world is huge, that it is bigger than where they're from or even their own country. They needed to see, in my opinion, that the sky is truly the limit. They can go far and they can go wide. In the end, it's all up to them with what they want to do. And for me growing up, I'm not going to say I had a bad childhood because in the end, it really was a good childhood. My parents did the best that they could do, but my mom was an Army recruiter, so we never saw her. Hardly ever. It was maybe in passing. And my dad worked construction, and a lot of that was traveling construction. So I remember for at least 8 years of my life straight that I maybe saw my dad for half an hour a day. And that was typically when we were getting up to go to school in the mornings because he did night construction. And in addition to night construction, he held a security job at a college in Missouri. So we never had a family vacation. We never went and ate as a family to like a sit-down restaurant other than maybe like Ryan's or Shoney's, like a buffet or like fast food, but never like a nice restaurant. The first nice restaurant I went to was when I started working and I had my own income and I would meet with like my friends from school. So I wanted my kids originally to have a typical vacation, just somewhere we would choose to go. And I decided that's what I wanted to do well before I had kids. I just knew I wanted to do like fun things with them because I don't have those experiences with my family. I don't even have baby pictures. I have no baby pictures. I have no early childhood pictures. The two that I had, I was probably in second or third grade, and I actually got that from my dad's wallet after he passed away. Like that was something that I got to keep from him that he had kept all of these years. So again, I wanted to do something more for my kids. I wanted them to have more experiences. However, once I joined the military, my first duty station was in Germany. So, like off the bat, I got bit by the traveling bug. And, I toured Germany, I went to Spain, I did France, and that was my first experience at, wow, there's a life outside the States. When I first got to Germany, I had never been anywhere other than the 3 states that I had lived in, and whatever area that the highway crossed that we had to move to go with my mom's new military orders. So that was it for me. Like, that was my first realization that, man, there's a lot out here. There's a lot to see. So once I got pregnant with my oldest, who is almost 13, I had finished my time in the military and I had gotten out, and I started doing like some contract work in Honduras. I'd been to Honduras with him. I had been to Kuwait with him at this point. We had been to Dubai, all before he was 3. And I realized that's what I wanted to do. So for a while I did contract work, and I just did contracts that were like 3 to 6 months, just so we could travel and I could do short stints. And I'd always only take assignments where he could go with me. And then, I got married and I got pregnant with my middle, who is 9. She'll be 10 in April. And, things changed. The marriage failed terribly. It is what it is. And so now here I am, a single mom with both of my kids. So I went back to that traveling lifestyle. Like, it was my safety net. Like, it's where I felt comfortable. It's where I felt safe. I don't know. It's hard to explain unless you've done it. But it always helps me keep my sanity. Like, traveling, there's something about traveling that keeps me sane. It's my happy place. I guess that's a better way to look at it. Like, it's my happy place. So obviously in the mix comes my third daughter. I'm sorry, my second daughter, third child. And I had her, I was living in the Bahamas, because I didn't know that I was pregnant when I moved. So I was pregnant in the Bahamas, and I stayed there probably till I was about 6 months pregnant, and I came back to the States because I kept having that feeling that I needed to have her in the States. So I did, and when I say that we were miserable, like, we were miserable. We were so restricted in what we could do because everything was expensive. I had to like rent a house, buy a car, like all of the typical like American stuff, because it's not like the city we moved back to was walkable. So, we had to have a car, and I had to get to my doctor's appointments, and I had to do all of that. So we were miserable. My 2 oldest had been so used to being able to do things on a daily basis that them sitting there during the day and just, we were bored. We were miserable. We couldn't really do anything outside of go to the park, because the zoo or the museum, it's a lot to get in. And then, there is no free for 3 and below, or, whatever it is. So I end up still having to pay for my youngest, to do everything. So while I would probably say the last 2 months of being pregnant with my youngest, I was in school full time as well, like finishing my degree online. But it was like straight up 4 or 5 hours a day of doing like some intensive research, because I knew that once I had her and I had her passport, like we were leaving. Like, I didn't even know where we were going. I don't even know if I had a plan at that time, but we were leaving. Like, we were ready, beyond ready. So we like narrowed it down. I started reaching out to people who had like travel blogs and the places we wanted to go, and kind of like getting family friendly advice, and people would put me in touch with other people who had families. And anyways, that's how we based where we went. So when she was 4 months old, like, we bounced, like, we were gone. Like, we went to Ecuador and loved it, met great people, had friends, and we were happy again. Like, my daughter went to daycare, for example, there, and I paid $100 a month for her to go to school. And that included her formula. Like, they provided her formula. I didn't bring anything other than diapers and a change of clothes and my baby. Like, they did everything. So, they're the reason I do it. I don't want to live a life that's a constant struggle where I'm living, month to month, barely making ends meet, when I know for a fact that there are places outside of the States where we can be comfortable, like we can be happy. And our budget, like I set our budget pretty low. And we've had no problem maintaining that budget anywhere we live. So, I mean, it's like $1,000 a month. Now, our budget is a little bit higher because of where we are, but that's only because every month we're taking a trip somewhere else. So, I had to factor that in to the new budget. But other than that, I mean, we were living on $1,000 or less a month. And to me, that was amazing because my rent alone, when we moved back to the States, was well over that. And I didn't even live in an expensive part of the States. So when people ask me why, it's my kids, hands down, to give my children a better life where they can experience and see the world in real time. It's not just what they read in books. It's not just what they see on the news. Like, this is real life. They see it. They want to learn a culture, we go. It's better than anything else I could have fathomed or imagined. And they are happier, and we are a lot closer because we're together. I mean, yeah, they get on my nerves, but they're my kids. I'm sure that I get on their nerves too. But we are a lot closer as a family than we were before. Okay, so let's touch on number 2. So for the last 6 years, I have homeschooled my children. And like about the first year that I homeschooled them, so my youngest still wasn't in school, which was probably a good idea. I didn't start when they were both school age, because I don't know if I would have had any sanity, and my hair probably would have been completely gray. But the first year was a constant battle with my oldest. And it wasn't that he didn't want to do the work. It's that I was new to homeschooling. So we were still learning like what curriculum was out there, what they liked, what they didn't like. And y'all, I'm going to tell you, there is a lot of curriculum out there. A lot of curriculum. And we have probably tried almost all of it. And we did a time for learning. We did Alpha and Omega. We did K-12. We did Discovery K-12. There's a lot. And then now for the past year, a little over a year, we've been using Funcation Academy, which my children absolutely love. And I have to say, like, it has been by far my favorite. Like, there's a lot of perks and benefits for the kids to do the right thing and to stay motivated. So, it's good. It's by far by far my favorite. And anytime that I'm in like a Facebook group or anybody asks, I will recommend that hands down because it's been the only one. So, yeah, so I homeschool. And we kind of throw a bit of unschooling in there because we follow a curriculum, but I let my kids lead what they want to do like on that particular day or what they want to learn. Or maybe we'll stray away from curriculum and we'll do a field trip and we'll go and see other things that are out there, or we'll take a trip and see we've seen a Holocaust memorial and museum. I haven't taken my youngest or my middle, just my oldest, because I don't think my middle or my youngest is ready, because it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't matter how old you are. Like, it's emotional, and I don't think they're ready for it. My oldest was ready for it because he asked, so I took him. So it's just like a mom and me day out, and we both got to be emotional and like put ourselves there, and we got to feel it. Like, it was real raw educational satisfaction as a homeschooling mom. I guess that's a good way to put it. But it's something he needed to learn. It's not, I don't want him just to learn what's written in a history book. Like, you need to go. You need to feel it. And if that's what you're led to want to learn about, then I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Because I don't want my kids to be little, I don't know the word for it, and I'm not knocking any mom that sends their kids to traditional school, because my kids have gone to a traditional school. And we've actually lived in places where I will put them in school to learn the language, but then I still homeschool. But I don't want my kids to just conform, if that makes sense. Like, I want them to be who they want to be. I want them to learn what they want to learn, as long as they are still learning what they need to learn. So, for example, last year, at the end of the school year, I actually had my kids tested, because through Funcation, you get to test to see where your kids are, to make sure that they have mastered all the skills that they need for their level. And my oldest, who was testing out of the 6th grade, actually tested into the 9th, and my 3rd grader tested into a 5th grade level. So, I mean, I feel like I'm doing something right. So when I doubt myself, I think about that, and I know that I'm doing the right thing. I mean, I have a degree in education too, so I don't like to doubt myself, but I've also learned that you are always your own worst critic, your own worst enemy. And I have those questions of, am I doing the right thing? Am I teaching them where they need to know? What if I put them back in school? Will they be at the level that they're supposed to be? And, I need to learn to stop and to just trust myself, because they're doing their thing and they know what it is they're doing. So I kind of just need to learn to go with the flow and just chill a little bit. Like, I'm working on that. So, I guess to sum it all up, like, the biggest thing for me is, I love this lifestyle. My kids love this lifestyle. I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this because of them. Like, they're teaching me. Like, the only ones learning while we're traveling. They're also teaching me. Like, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about them. I'm learning a lot about myself. And I'm also learning that life does not necessarily work the way that we want it to work, or the way that we plan it to work. However, I've also learned that the more I push myself past my limits and out of my comfort zone, the more I'm learning how strong I really am, and how adaptable any situation is, and how to make positive out of negative and things that have terribly gone wrong. So, would I do it differently if I could take myself back 10 years? Absolutely not. There are probably other places I would have done in different order, if that makes sense. Like, I probably would have went like here first or there second versus how we did it. But I would absolutely not change one single thing. And as far as worrying about my kids' education, I don't. Other people worry about it, or people who are against homeschooling or unschooling or world schooling, but I don't. Not anymore. Like, I'll probably still doubt myself from time to time, because I'm a mom, and again, that's what we do. But I don't worry about it. Like, I know they're where they need to be, and they've excelled and passed where they needed to be, so there's absolutely nothing to worry about. And 3, when it comes to their education, like, if my kids choose to go to college, then they're going to have some that's not even a word, some awesome essays to write about the things they've done and the places they've been and the languages they've learned. So, I mean, we're just going with it. But a quick point on homeschooling before I end this. is for all you moms or dads or grandparents who have custody of their kids. If you're going to travel, you need to ensure that whatever country you are going to, that homeschooling is legal. There are places that it is not legal to homeschool your kids. Biggest one being Germany, which I actually had to put my kids in a regular school there. It's a big no-no. Big no-no. And it's because we were staying longer than the 90 days and we had applied for residency. I had to follow German law. It didn't matter that I was American. It did not matter. What mattered is from that moment that I applied for that residency visa, I was having to follow the same rules as a German citizen. And I had no problems with that. I didn't, because at that time my kids were still really young and they actually learned German, which they haven't retained much of it because once we left, we didn't have anybody to really speak it to. But it was, if my kids were older and I didn't know about that, I think it would have been hard, because it's harder to be kind of like, I guess, thrown to the wolves when you're like 10 or 12 or 13 per se and you don't know the language. So that's a must. When you research, you have to ensure that where you're going allows for homeschooling, because you could find yourself in a seriously bad situation. I mean, there are horror stories where parents have gotten arrested and their kids have been taken from them in Germany because they have homeschooled. So, big point, make sure it's legal. Don't do anything illegal. And even if you're going to be in a country temporary, it benefits you to know their laws, especially when it comes to your kids and their education. Always, 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 always do your research, reach out, ask questions, make sure you have everything that you need to know when it comes to schooling your children abroad. If I could do anything differently, I would know that. That's like the one thing I would want to know, which didn't matter to me at the time because my kids were small. So if I could give you one piece of advice from this video, other than travel, it would be to make sure you research where you want to live to ensure that schooling your own children outside of the traditional education system in that country is legal. I can't say it enough. I can't say it enough. I can't say it enough. With that, I think my daughter has finally fallen asleep. So it's time for me to put her in the bed, and I need to work on a blog post because we actually just took a trip Monday through Wednesday and we're just getting back. I'm tired. I have to do laundry. I have to get so much stuff ready because it's the end of the week and it's like it's just started. So I'm going to get busy doing that, but I wanted to pop in here and address two of the questions that a lot of people ask me, and I will be back on either this weekend or later in the week to address a couple more questions that I've gotten asked. If any of you guys have any specific questions, drop them in the comments and I will be sure to look over them and answer them and address them in the next video. And until then, Nomadic Mom is going to bed. Good night, y'all.